Hey, Razballers! Welcome to another edition of the Razball Fantasy Basketball Podcast. This will be a special Jimmy Butler edition. I'm Brent Carlson, your host, and I have our fearless leader from basketball.razball.com, Son, with us.
What's going on, Brent?
What's up, man? So, big news today. My phone was blowing up. My ESPN app, my CBS Sports app, my NBA League Pass app. They were all telling me breaking news. Jimmy Butler is going to the Sixers to form a big three with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and their championship odds went from like 33-1 to 16-1. What do you think about this deal? What's the fantasy fallout? What's just your first impressions of the deal itself?
Um, First impressions is it's a good deal for both teams. Um, like Minnesota, I think gets a lot better in this deal. The acquisition of Dario Saric, puts a stretch four next to Towns, gives him more room to operate. Covington, plays really good D. Dario Saric plays decent D too, and it's tough. But Covington, can stretch the floor as well. So, um, that gives them some physicality, some shooting, and obviously, I think ultimately, like, you know, Cat is kind of like a mental midget. So getting Jimmy Butler out of town, that kind of frees him mentally. That should benefit him mentally and emotionally. From the Philly side, um, obviously it's a big three, so that's very interesting. Butler is going to bring that dog to the team. Uh, Arguably one of the better two-way players in the league. Um, there's just a couple questions for me, like what's his lineup going to be? Um, my initial thought was Simmons, Fultz, Redick, Butler, playing, I guess, the power forward and Joel Embiid. But then I could also see them going, maybe Wilson Chandler, Muscala, power forwards, Butler at the three, Simmons, Redick, moving Fultz to the bench. I don't know. They have some options here. Um, I just don't. I think the Simmons Fultz experiment. I don't know. I think it's kind of done. you know.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that. And there was talk when this deal happened that not only can Philly sign Butler to a 5-year deal this summer, but they should, if they get rid of all their other free agents and potentially trade Fultz, they could have room for a fourth max player next year too.
is that right? Is that possible?
That's
Wow.
what I was reading.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's not max, it's another high-priced free agent. For sure. And you have guys like Tobias Harris who are going to be free agents, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good Kyrie Irving. I mean, it's a pretty good free agent class. So,
I mean,
and Philly, I mean, when you
Clay.
can go play with those three guys, I mean, that's like automatic championship. I don't think
Clay.
Klay leaves the Warriors. I think Durant's gone for sure. I think Durant either
Yeah.
goes to the Lakers, New York, or the Clippers as like a dark horse. But Philly could be an attractive spot. I mean, but you're going to be, the fourth option on a team, with Butler, who's already blown up 2 locker rooms too.
Yeah. That's the intangible aspect. The non-quantifiable aspect of everything. Like everywhere he's gone, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of destroyed the team. So,
Well, there was
um,
one. Well, I guess Thibodeau has been the common denominator of the two teams, and he won't be in Philly, and he might not be anywhere soon if this trade doesn't lead to some wins for Minnesota.
that no, that's true. But Embiid, he's the anti-cat in that, he's, he doesn't give an F, right?
Yeah,
Like he's
he
gonna
could
clown
finish
you.
games. Yeah, he's shown just
Yeah,
yesterday
no,
that was
it's
amazing
just
against the Hornets last night.
yeah, it's
What he did.
but I mean, we know his basketball skill, but just mentally and emotionally, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
he would never let Jimmy Butler come into practice and do what he did to the Minnesota team.
Oh, he would call
Like,
him
you
out
know
on
what I'm saying?
Instagram. Yeah, with some funny meme or yeah. There's no way.
No, no, I
Like,
mean, no, not even that. Like on the court,
oh
like
yeah,
he'd be like, F you, Butler," like so,
yeah.
like he'll be able to stand up to him, mentally, physically, like So,
Simmons is
I
super
just
confident too. I've known on
yes,
the court. I
yes.
mean, he's not as he doesn't talk as much as Embiid. He's not like as in your face, but I have a hard time believing that Simmons would put up with what Wiggins and Cat put up with in Minnesota.
He's. I mean, it's possible, but that I'm not sure. I could go either way on that one actually, but Embiid for sure. There's no way that he would let Butler walk over that team. So he may be, uh, you know, I guess to negate the negative impact that Butler could do in terms of damage. But um, from a basketball standpoint, I mean, it's pretty interesting, right? Because Embiid and I mean, three ball dominant players. How is that going to work? And
Yeah,
uh,
and is Butler going
you
to be okay being second fiddle to Embiid? Because I mean,
right or
face
third field, he could be third.
Embiid is Philadelphia. Like he's literally the process
Yeah, I
that
mean, he might be
everything's
third
based
fiddle.
around. Yeah,
He might be third fiddle, not even second fiddle. Because
true. Yeah, because Simmons is going to handle the ball.
right,
And they're not going to change that because it's not like Simmons is going to spread the floor. I
exactly.
mean, so yeah, Butler could become some sort of like better version of Robert Covington.
Which is interesting, and I looked at the numbers, right? Like the catch and shoot numbers for Butler. I mean, they're not great. Yeah, in terms of frequency, like the volume isn't that high, but just this year on 3 points, catch and shoot's been 14.4%, and granted it's only been on 2.2 attempts per game, but that's 36%. Um, I think Covington was at like 63%, 5.6 attempts at 39% efficiency on catch and shoot,
Oh yeah.
right? And defensive wise, like Covington is no slouch, right?
Mm-mm.
So, um, it's kind of interesting, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
know,
I
like
mean, I could see, with Saric. Saric is not that athletic. He was yeah. I mean, he seems to get stats, but it's not as pretty to watch, I guess, as with some other guys.
I like
So
Sarge.
I don't think
I
that's a
like
big
Sarge
loss, but I think
because
Robert Covington's going to be a big loss.
I mean, I think they're both. I think they're both big losses because Sarge wasn't playing well this year, but like he has the physicality, to bang down low and get rebounds.
Yeah.
It's not going to get pushed around, but he also has the ability, to stretch the floor. I guess, Muscala, I mean, he may be a poor man's version of Sarge. He can stretch the floor too, and he's got a big physical body, so maybe they feel confident in him.
Yeah, maybe because he had been playing pretty well the last week or so, that gave them the confidence to make this move.
It's possible. It's possible. But yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. Like part of me is like Minnesota may have gotten the better of this deal, right? Because
Well, I
Sarge,
mean, Minnesota definitely, because they got players that could plug right in right away. They got rid of, the cancer, and they got two guys that are good, starting NBA players. Plus, Jared Bayless, who you might waive him. I don't know. I guess they'll probably see how like Teague's injury's going. But
yeah.
he's a serviceable, off the bench guy.
But
He's just been
injured.
injured a
He's been
lot.
injured. Yeah, he's been
Yeah,
injured.
he's been injured like the last 2 years almost.
Yeah.
And then a second round pick that's sort of just like a throw in, I guess. But
Too bad they can't
I
get a
don't even think
one.
it's till 2022 or something too.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get a one actually.
Yeah, that's why when I was looking at this deal, my first thought was, oh, is this better than like getting a first round pick and Josh Richardson from Miami? Because there was rumors that they would have included Richardson and Bam maybe and a pick or something like that. I started comparing it to the other rumors I had heard
Right.
to
Okay.
just to be like, is this? It's sort of like when Indiana traded George and got Oladipo and Sabonis. We all look back and we're like, dang, Indiana like was awesome, but at the time that
Yeah.
deal was made, they got annihilated in the media for not
Right.
getting picks and just getting two guys and blah blah
Right.
blah. So I'm trying to think ahead, like, was this the best deal they could have gotten, even though it's a pretty good deal?
I mean, I heard the Richardson one, like Miami took it off the table, took Richardson out of the deal. So I don't even know if you know what I'm saying. Like
Well,
I
I
don't
think that
even
was
know if he
after
was there.
Minnesota was sort of playing coy about it and not,
I guess.
kind of
But
leading them on. Yeah.
so from the perspective of like Richardson and Bam, and a pick, I think that's way better than the Covington Sarge pick, just because uh, I think the upside ceiling of Covington and Sarge are very good role players,
Yeah.
whereas the upside for Richardson is he could be Oladipo-esque, like he could be the guy.
Yeah.
So the upside is higher there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I don't even know, I don't even think that it was a viable scenario.
Yeah,
So
that might have even been Minnesota just planting stuff in the media to get Miami to
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
do
you
it.
never know,
I don't
right?
think Miami really wanted to get rid of J. Rich.
Yeah, no, I mean, why not? I mean, he's so young, he has that upside. So, um,
So
yeah,
what happens now with, uh, obviously anybody on Minnesota who's not part of that big three is just probably useless, other than maybe Reddick because of what he does.
no,
But
Philly,
yeah,
Philly.
just because those three guys are going to dominate so much of the usage. I mean, is Fultz even like we're stashing at this point now?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of intrigued on Fultz in the off season, but then once I saw the regular season, I kind of jumped ship. Um, yeah, I'm just not feeling him, and like even if he does, you know, get to a certain level, like he's just still from a fantasy perspective, he's lacking in so many areas that I don't even know if it's worth it because I do think that his minutes come down from all this. Um, I kind of think that like Muscala and Chandler kind of get the biggest boost here, right?
True, that opens up
Um,
minutes for them.
yeah, definitely opens up minutes, but you know, I mean, I could see a reasonable scenario where Butler soaks up a lot of the power forward minutes, I guess, and then you go, Fultz and Reddick. Like I could definitely see that too. So, um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like Chandler, Muscala, they probably won't be fantasy, viable outside of like the deepest of leagues, but they could fall into some minutes here.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about the starting lineup too, and
Yeah.
I think the Simmons, Reddick, Butler, Muscala, Embiid is probably their best option.
You have
I like
Muscala.
Butler at the wing more
Yeah,
than I like him at the in the down on the block.
you have
So
Muscala ahead of Chandler.
maybe. I mean, Chandler's still working his way back, so maybe at
Yeah,
some point Chandler overtakes him. But I've sort of been, had Muscala on kind of my watch list lately,
yeah,
just because
yeah,
he's been playing pretty well, and now like, with these minutes opening up, and we've seen the best of Wilson Chandler, I think, in his career. Muscala is one of those guys who like always was on the verge of being fantasy relevant, if given the time. One of those guys like if this guy gets hurt and this guy gets hurt, watch out. But
right,
now
right.
he actually has that time, and Chandler's not the healthiest guy, so and those guys with those other three guys on the court, Reddick, the other two guys in the starting lineup are going to be wide open every time. So if they're knocking down their shots, there could be something there.
Um,
But you have Chandler ahead of Muscala.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, they seem pretty even to me. Like they kind of bring different, skill sets to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it just depends on which direction they want to go. I mean, I guess I would leave Muscala as well, just because he's a little bigger. Can bang down low. He can shoot the three. He can stretch the floor, which is basically what Sarge was doing.
He is out
Um,
a week though right now with a broken nose.
yeah, nose.
So it could be Chandler starts right away, and then kind of just stays
Yeah,
that way too. Just bad
maybe,
luck.
maybe. But
Muscala had
referencing,
been getting
your
almost 30 minutes a game the
yeah,
last three games
that's what I was
before he
about to
got hurt.
say.
Yeah,
28, 26, 24 minutes, and the shot attempts, the shot. I mean, there was one game with 10, but he's getting, a couple threes. He shot 8 threes
yeah.
that
He
one game
gets
when
to
he
the
could have shot
line.
10.
He gets to the line
So
quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, he
So
might be the guy. Um, but in terms of like open looks and stuff like that, yeah, I mean, I think they really need to get Reddick into the starting lineup. Like if they go Simmons and Fultz, though, that might be an issue because you can sag off them, you can help off them. Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm very curious to see which direction they go, but they do have some versatility.
Yeah, Chandler, Amir Johnson, is even just possible like role player who can just fill in and play power forward in that group.
Just because he can't shoot.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's the problem. So I think he's the direct backup to Embiid. I don't think you would ever want Embiid and Johnson. I haven't watched enough Philly games.
yeah, because that would just lead to automatic double teams.
Yeah, I
At
guess I'll
least
have to check.
Chandler and Muscala command a little bit of attention.
Yeah, I'll check like popcorn machine.
I think Chandler, he's a little bit more of a rebounder than Muscala. I think, right? Is he more? I don't know. I just feel like maybe Chandler's a little more physical, or do you see it the other way?
I don't know. I think Chandler's a little more athletic. I mean, he's had some injuries, but I think Muscala's a little more of a bruiser. I think.
Okay.
But rebounding numbers. I mean, what, 5, almost 6 for Chandler last year. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
Muscala's more of a spread the floor kind of guy too,
Yeah,
though.
but yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big guy, so like he can bang too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be
kind of
interesting.
like a Myers Leonard kind of.
Yeah, but Leonard, that dude cannot shoot at all, man.
he
That
can
guy's
hit that baseline three, but that's about it. Okay, so flip over to the Minnesota side then. I mean, Towns had a huge game the other night. I mean, I think this might catapult Towns to the top three, uh, fantasy wise. I mean, I think just the confidence.
bring him back to where he was?
Yeah,
A lot of people
Like
had him
get the
up there.
confidence back. Yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about him in the last 2 years, maybe even being the number one.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think this allows him to get back to where he was.
I think there's
Uh,
two things for this on two levels. One is getting rid of Jimmy. I think that's just mentally and emotionally just takes a lot of the negativity, a lot of the garbage out of that locker room, and I think that kind of relaxes them. But I think more importantly, though, um, the Sarge acquisition moves Gibson to the bench, right? Or Gibson would be behind backing up Towns maybe. But basically, because Sarge can stretch the floor, that's going to open up more of the paint or give Cat more room to operate.
yep.
Uh, so, reference it back to what you're saying, like, yeah, that also helps him get back to where he was at. And yeah, yeah, I think top 3 player, top 5 player is realistic here.
Gibson had actually been stretching the floor a little bit this season. It
A
was,
little bit, but yeah,
yeah,
he's yeah,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, I could see Tibbs starting Gibson. Like a lot of teams seem to want to start the bigger center and then they move into the small ball as the game moves on and to close the games. But
he
it'd
loves
be hard to
Gibson.
bring Covington and Sarge off the bench.
Yeah, he loves Gibson. Like he has some sort of affinity for him, but yeah, it just makes too much sense to have Sarge there. I don't understand why he wouldn't,
Yeah,
because he fit. I mean, he fits perfectly for unlocking Towns.
I mean the starting
So
lineup of Teague, Covington, Sarge, Towns, and Wiggins is a pretty good starting five, especially with bringing Rose off the bench, who's been awesome. That Tyus Jones, you have some really good options. Then that it feels, I don't know, they feel like a lot deeper now. The
I like it.
rotation feels a little
Yeah,
better.
I
Yeah.
I like it. Now they just need to trade Wiggins.
Well, yeah, he's actually, he's been playing better, and he's put up better kind of all around numbers this season. He's just had this quad thing that's been keeping him out.
Yeah, he's had a few games where he has contributed in the periphery, but like I don't know, he sucks.
Yeah, I know. I
Like
watch him out there, and he does. I could see why Butler thinks of him as kind of soft. He just doesn't. He doesn't have that like look. You call it that dog in him, but
yeah,
yeah, he just
he has
doesn't
no
have that
dog.
like eye of the tiger or whatever you want to call it. He
Yeah,
just
he has
seems
no
sort of
dog.
like, oh, I made a shot. Okay, I'm gonna go back on D.
Yeah, the problem is like he's the guy that you play with like pickup where all he wants to do is just score and look pretty for the girls. But in terms of actually like winning and doing the things that requires, like he has no interest in doing that.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah, he's like the more of the Sports Center highlight guy.
Yeah, you don't see him like diving on the floor, and I mean, I've seen, I see guys like Durant and these LeBron, these type of guys. They'll dive into the stands. They'll
Yeah,
dive for a ball. Kemba Walker, I saw him like dive across half court, full on flat out dive to back tip it to one of his guys to go get a fast break. And this guy's about to get paid. He's in the MVP conversation, and but that's why, because he's willing to make that kind of sack. He doesn't think about it. It's just
you,
that's
you,
what he's about.
yeah, exactly. You know what it is? It's for the love of the game,
Yeah,
right? It's like a lot of those guys, like they do it just for the love of the game, right? Whereas,
yeah,
sometimes I get the feeling that Wiggins plays basketball because he can get paid playing basketball, right?
yeah.
Whereas the
He
other guys
just
play
that's what he's good
basketball
at.
because, yeah,
Yeah,
the other guys play basketball because they love playing basketball, and then they get paid as a byproduct of it. Whereas I think it's opposite for Wiggins, which sucks because it's just physically like the sky, uh, you know the ceiling just shoots up all the way to the sky. So it's just too bad.
yeah, exactly. So, any other thoughts on this deal? The effect on fantasy? Um, any big winners here? Does this do anything for Okogie? Does this do anything for, Rose? On the Philly side, we talked a little bit about, Fultz. They're not very, Philly doesn't seem very deep, is sort of the problem. Do they seem really top heavy now? Do you have that impression, or do you feel like they have some decent bench pieces?
The
The
the X
Sixers,
factors,
yeah,
yeah, the X factors, I guess, are Chandler and Muscala,
yeah,
right? I think in the in the backcourt, I think they're fine. There's I mean, you got Fultz, Simmons, McConnell, Reddick, right? That's not bad. And Shamit has been playing well, and he's shown that he can shoot the ball, and he's the moment is not too big for him. So backcourt, I think they're fine. I think the question must come in the front court. Um, you know, Embiid, I guess Amir Johnson is the direct sub for Embiid. And then it just comes down to, the three and the four, right? Because I guess Wilson Chandler, when healthy, like he could also play a little small as well.
oh yeah, definitely,
Yeah, so, but, he and Muscala are question marks. So I
yep,
think if those two guys, like if they're hurt or, they don't play well, then I think that goes back to your point where, um, they're a little weak in terms of the depth aspect of it. But if those two guys do come back and play well, then um, I mean, then they're I think the narrative changes there because I could see them uh, actually making a pretty big impact for this team.
for sure, yeah. And
Yeah,
then I guess Zaire Smith is going to be back at some point. I know he's pretty raw,
yeah,
but that gives
yeah.
him little more depth. Minnesota, I mean, does this do anything? Does this hurt Rose? Does this hurt Okogie? You know, Teague should be back any day now. Any thoughts there on that side?
Um, no, I think Rose will be fine. I think, like I said, I think the main guy is just Gibson. And it's too bad because he was playing well the last week.
Yeah,
Um, but you know, yeah, I just don't see where. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, I guess he could go back to backing up Towns and Sarge so he can get his minutes that way. Um, but then that slides Dang down. But
yeah.
regard,
Poor Gorgie, dang. I mean,
yeah,
that dude just keeps every time he
it's
gets like a glimmer of daylight, another like cave in happens.
it's okay. Don't feel bad for him. He got a nice little payday.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I just
all
feel like
things are.
there's some. I feel like there's teams where he could actually contribute. But
I don't know. I mean, he's just so limited,
yeah,
right?
true.
Like
Especially in
like
today's NBA. Yeah.
yeah, in this game, like yeah, like you need to be able to shoot. Yeah, I mean Gibson, I think is the guy that gets the most negative impact from it. you know, I don't know. I guess I do like Sarge. You know,
So this,
um,
yeah. So last question: what does this do to Covington, Sarge, and then Butler?
uh, I think Covington and Sarge will be about the same. I don't really see too much change. I
Yeah,
guess the one possible, you know, I don't know, a bump maybe you could probably give them is just because you know their minutes are going to be so secure. Uh, if Tibbs does go with Covington and Sarge, like
oh yeah,
you know the minutes that they're getting. So
yeah.
like that's a positive there. Um,
So what about Butler then? That's
yeah,
the
in terms
last.
of Butler, I mean, I think the numbers come down a little bit, just because Simmons is gonna handle the ball so much, and Embiid is gonna handle the ball so much, and like I said, like he's not the best catch and shoot offensive guy. Like he's better with the ball in his hands. So I mean, I guess there could be times where maybe when Simmons goes down, then you'll have Butler, or maybe sit Embiid and Simmons at the same time and have Butler there. I don't know. I mean, I guess they would put him in situations where he would be the guy at certain times.
Yeah,
But I think when more often than not, when Simmons, Butler, and Embiid are all on the floor together, um, I think he's the third fiddle there, and um, I think that definitely brings him down a little bit. But with that said, he contributes in so many categories that I
yeah.
don't think
He
the
won't be top
yeah
10 anymore, but he'll still be top 20.
yeah, like he'll still be fantasy relevant and viable for sure.
And I think maybe it does hurt Simmons scoring a little bit because Simmons does seem to feel okay like giving it up at times, and when you have a guy like Butler, who can really score, I think Simmons might, even be willing to pass it off even more. So, I mean,
It's
Simmons, you don't
possible.
really
Yeah,
have Simmons for scoring anyway. Like 17's a good night. I could see him being more down around the 10, more like sort of a little better Lonzo Ball type number.
that's gonna be the interesting dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Simmons and Butler, because I think Embiid is locked into what he's gonna do. So,
Yeah.
because if you're gonna have Butler with the ball, then that just you can't have Simmons on the floor there, right? Like, what's the point? Like, you're just gonna have him
Yep.
sit in the corner, right? So, um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting how they do the rotations here. I would imagine that um, they would want to kind of separate those guys more often than not. Um, but I think when they're on the court together, I still think that Simmons is the guy that's going to initiate the offense,
Yep.
and Jimmer's going to be off ball. But I guess
Simmons can't
rather
be
than
off ball because he can't shoot. It's like he can
yeah,
come off a
exactly, he can shoot.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess he's a good cutter. Gets so he can do that. But then I guess Butler, I I, I guess what kind of action are they going to run for Butler when Simmons has the ball? I guess there'll be a lot of catch and shoot opportunities because like I said, Covington was getting almost six a game.
Yep.
But I guess he may be more effective, like cutting and slashing to the rim, with Simmons, seeing them, I guess, working a lot of off-ball screens and back picks and things like that. So I can see that. But it's gonna be interesting to see. But I guess from a fantasy perspective, slight slight dip, I think, to Butler. But I don't think it's anything like too significant.
Cool. Well, thank you, son, for your time today. We wanted to bring you this special Jimmy Butler edition of the podcast. We'll try to get this up as soon as possible. And we'll be back with a regular edition next week. Son, any parting thoughts?
No, man. It's always fun talking to you. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, take it
Bye,
easy.
everyone.
Bye.